It's like beep, 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 and then fucking the Star Wars crawl comes up, and then you watch a movie for 2 hours and that you don't like very much. You watch it for a little while, and then after the movie's over,
You're like,
you
that
go,
sucked.
I don't know why I spent $30 to watch that movie.
Yeah, pretty much. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are live. Welcome to another episode of Relaxed Retro Talk. I am Dookie03.
I'm DG Online. Welcome. Happy. Well, you'll probably see this on a Wednesday, but it's one of those beautiful days where we get to hang out, talk about video games. Two old guys saying, back in my day, video games didn't connect to the internet.
Yep, they sure didn't. And it's a damn good thing, honestly.
Yeah, there is a cut point. We were talking about that in the Discord. There's a if there was a line graph of like when games started not being super awesome.
Yeah.
You couldn't rely on the game being great.
Yeah.
That was kind of the cut point is when the internet got connected, because then everything had to become online.
Yeah.
We're talking about back in the good old days where you wanted to play a game with your buddy, you had to like actually hang out with them in person.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying the internet's bad. Before anybody
No.
takes me into context,
what it's done
okay?
For gaming in some ways is
It's
though,
yeah, not super great. I mean, there's lots of good games, but there's equally lots of not great games because of the fact that they're so
they rely on it instead of utilizing it to improve the experience. They rely on it to not release quality finished products, I guess.
It feels like that games have effort and development put towards their shops and their in-game store, and then they build a game around that.
Yeah,
right? Like they're like, let's build this shop, and we'll figure the game out later. But this is how we'll make money.
The real money shop is the most important part of the game. We want the players to spend all their time and money here, and not playing the game.
It's incredibly important that we land as many whales as possible. So I want all the effort on this on the microtransaction store.
Look, that DLC character, double the titty size, or we need to increase the sales volume.
Yeah. And then it's like, hey, sir, what game is it that we're gonna create? Who fucking cares? Look, we're just going to make this. We're not gonna make the game right now. I want to make the store right now. Okay. We got to make money, and then we'll just slap Fortnite on top of it. It's fine. Everyone's doing it.
Yeah, pretty much.
And that's how they created Final Fantasy VII Fortnite.
Oh yeah, the Final Fantasy VII Fortnite game.
That's how they created it.
Lasted 9 months, and then they shut it down.
That was a reenactment, in case anyone was wondering.
A dramatization. Like when
you
see those true crime shows.
Dramatization may not have actually happened.
Fuck. So before we get to the growing up Super Nintendo games part of the podcast, which is going to be the main part, obviously.
Yes.
Two things I want to mention. First thing, I do apologize. I'm having some weird glitchy thing where like half of my webcam is like teleporting and cloning me all over the place.
Some instant transmission going on.
Instant transmission shit going on over here. And the other thing I want to get to before we get balls deep into growing up with the Super NES is DG. We talked about it on an earlier podcast. It was quite a while ago now, like maybe a year probably. Maybe more.
Oh, we're going way back.
Yeah, we talked about because DG was just getting into Star Trek at that time, and now he is beyond where most people have gone. Like I feel like most Star Trek, the average Star Trek fan hasn't seen anything past Voyager.
Yeah,
and
I have gone where
no man has gone before.
Maybe not many, but some.
Yeah. So he saw all of Enterprise, and he saw the first two seasons of Discovery, which is the only seasons you really have to watch in order to get to the modern stuff. Yeah.
So I started off. If we rewind back to what I was saying, like last time we chatted about this, I started off on Next Generation. Because we were talking, you, me, and Finney, we were talking. Oh,
right, you didn't start at the original series, hey?
No, and I was like, you guys are talking about Star Trek again? I hate Star Trek, that sucks. And you guys were like, no, it doesn't, it's great. I'm like, honestly, I've tried to watch Next Generation, which is apparently top-tier Star Trek. I probably tried to watch it 3, 4, 5 times, and every single time I barely get through 3, 4 episodes. And Duke was like, why are you watching all the episodes?
Yeah, why are you watching season 1? Like, seasons 1 through 3 are really, like, bad. Or maybe just 1 and 2.
1 and 2 were definitely bad. 3 wasn't great. 4, they were, like...
on fire,
from there, right? And so you were like, here, try this. Watch these episodes. And then tell me what you think after that. And I was like, okay, well, I'll tell you what. I'll watch the first 5 on your list, and then we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
And then I watched all of Next Generation, all of it. And then after that, I went back because I was like, well, that was awesome. I'm going to go back and watch the original series. So I did that. From the original series, I jumped back forward to where I left off before, to Deep Space Nine. From Deep Space Nine to Voyager, from Voyager to Enterprise, from Enterprise now I'm on to Discovery, and I'm just about complete Discovery, which I gotta tell you, not super
Discovery. Great. I didn't put any of season 4 on that list.
Yeah,
because...
I gotta tell you, I don't really like the direction that they went in there. There's some like nuggets of like good stuff in there, but it's like that series isn't for me. No. And so I'm now on the and I also watched Lower Decks, but I don't know where that really fits
Lower
in.
Decks since it first came out. Yeah,
Lower Decks is good, and Star Trek Online, Lower Decks, and then the little bit of the Next Generation I ended up catapulting me into
the series. Yeah.
And so now I'm like all in. I'm at a point in life where I truly and honestly think. Before I would have told you, hand over fist, Star Wars way better than Star Trek, and that couldn't be more opposite anymore for me. Yeah. I got to tell you, like, episode 4, 5, and episodes 4 and 5 of Star Wars. Six has its moments, but that was like the moment where you started seeing. I think as a young person, I
remember falling asleep during Return of the Jedi like 2 or 3 times when I was a kid.
It's got moments like the opening fight, the Sarlacc pit, dude, like that's great. I love that. A lot of the blowing up of the second Death Star, the fight between Luke and Vader at the end, and then eventually with the Emperor, like all of that stuff really great. But the padding and the filler in episode 6
I think it's just
insane.
The pacing is so bad.
It's what it is, and so
it didn't need to be that long, right?
No, and so. After that, it's been a steady decline, with the exception of episode 3.
I was gonna say the real Star Wars trilogy is episode 3, 4, and 5.
3, 4, and 5, 100%. The if there was a way to watch the pieces of the Last Jedi that would kind of finalize the story and like you cut out like a lot of the unnecessary stuff, then I would be all in on that component of things. But 1 and 2 not great. Not awful, but not great.
Yeah, not as bad as really I remember them being, but not good. But not as bad as I remember them being. Look, 2 is a lot better than I remember. I remember 2 being like nothing happening at all in 2.
Absolutely. The problem with episode 1 is that there was such a gap between episode 6 and episode 1, right?
Yeah.
And so when episode 1 released. And everyone was like, yeah, new Star Wars.
Yeah, no doubt.
They weren't expecting an hour and a half of political fights.
Yeah.
You know? Like, what kid doesn't want to go and learn about galactic treaties and
the trade deals and shit.
Right?
Trade embargoes.
And so by the time episode 2 actually rolled around, all the wind in the sails had been completely removed from,
Yeah,
like,
kind of.
we've got new Star Wars. And so the Clone Wars ended up kind of tapering off. Now, the Clone Wars, the movie, spawned the Clone Wars, the animated
Well, it's
series.
called Attack of the Clones.
And
And
then,
the clones
so
don't
there's
attack
two.
until like immediately before the credits roll.
Yeah, so you have the Clone Wars, the animated series cartoon. You've
Yeah.
got Clone Wars, the animated series CGI.
Yeah.
You've got Attack of the Clones, and then you've got now they've gone back and they've done things like the Bad Batch and all of these other
Yeah,
ones. Disney
Rogue
Plus is doing their
something.
damnedest to try and revive a floundering Star Wars.
Yeah.
I'm gonna catch so much hate for this because, like, it's taboo to
Not-
say bad things.
Not anymore, I don't think.
I'm too old and opinionated. It doesn't matter. The thing is Star Wars needs one really good trilogy, right? Just to, like, right the pathway.
Yeah.
Everybody,
Or even
I-
two
I
in a
would-
row that are like top
Well,
top
I-
tier.
As far as I'm concerned, if you ask anybody about what they thought about the newest trilogy and the ending of the newest trilogy, which I'm not going to say because if you haven't seen it, well, whatever. But the ending of that movie was just like the perfect cherry on top of the crap sundae that those movies were. They
Yeah,
tried
really.
so hard to recreate themselves as the original trilogy that it ended up just coming off awful.
Yeah.
And the
Where it
ending
didn't make
to it
sense
was the
at
perfect.
all, and
None of
like,
it.
yeah.
It was just random. They just threw. They took a handful of darts and chucked them at the board, and whatever landed, that was the storyline, right? Like Super Space Leia
Yeah.
jumping from across the way. She's perfectly fine. She's just a little frozen. No problem. You don't need
I honestly-
oxygen to live.
I honestly liked the first two of the new ones.
They weren't bad.
But
Right?
rewatching them, they're not as good as as they were in theaters. But the third
I
one
hate-
was so bad.
I hate what they did with Luke Skywalker in the second movie.
Oh,
they turned
yeah.
him into an enemy.
Yeah,
and
they turned him
like,
into kind of a piece of shit
and
and,
he-
a pussy
and that-
at the same time.
It's just like they just ruined everything. And so I was like, whatever, and I shut it down. Anyway, long story short, I kind of closed the door on Star Wars. And then I was like, well, whatever, I guess that's the end of my sci-fi. I don't really care anymore. And so
Is Star Wars
we-
really sci-fi though?
What-
Like it's like
was-
fantasy with lasers, kind
I
of.
think it was to me at the time because I didn't have the door open to any of this other stuff,
That's
right?
true.
Like, as far as it goes, like I would have, if rewind time to me as a teenager, and I would be like, I'm never watching Star Trek. I wouldn't betray Star Wars like that.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay.
And so now I'm at a point where I'm like, that sucked. They're out, and it's like no allegiance whatsoever.
Yeah,
it's like if
That's
it
like me with
sucks,
like Final
forget it.
Fantasy now, right? Like,
Yeah,
it's like you
like,
can
whatever.
you can fuck up 13, 14, and 15, but I mean, we're obviously on like now that there's like 4 in a row that I have zero interest in. Come on, man.
Well, but I mean, here's the thing: if they released 17 and it's basically like the same way they made Final Fantasy 9, but it's a new game, you would
Yeah.
buy it.
Oh yeah, 10
has nothing to
and
do with
literally
the fact-
any of the other ones. It could be more. It
There's
could be like,
yeah,
and I would buy
it has nothing to do with the fact of like
It-
needing to shut down a
if-
series. It's
If
simply
they made a game that played like Final Fantasy.
if they, the namesake, the game that made them as popular as they are, so that they
Yeah.
could release these garbage ones.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I mean, as far as it goes, that's basically now what's launched me into Star Trek, and so now I'm on the precipice of Strange New Worlds and Picard, which are apparently some of the best Star Wars to
Really
ever come
good,
out
yeah.
of the series, out of the entire run. And so I'm excited for that. I made a vow because like I have an ability to like exit Discovery at this point.
Yeah.
I made a vow
you
like
should.
I will watch the few that are on this list just in case. You never know. Maybe I watch those and I'm like, hey, you know what? This actually wasn't that bad. But I gotta tell you, I got halfway through episode 1, season 3, episode 1, and I'm like, this is gonna be a rough ride.
the thing with season 3 is it has so much potential because they're like 3,000
Yeah,
years in the
they're
future or something like
way
that.
in the
Right?
future, 3308 or 3305 or something like
Yeah,
that. I think
yeah.
it said.
So there's so much potential. There's a lot of, just like the rest of Discovery, there's a lot of the events that are happening in the background are very cool, very important, very kind of structured events, but it's
Yep.
like the writing of the
And they
characters and the
ignore
dialogue
all
and stuff.
of that so they can talk about having boyfriends while they're at a a party on the starship. I videoed that part of the episode because I was like, what am I even watching right now? They're like, oh, what boy do you like? I like that boy. And I'm like, what is this? What have they done? And so, like, I get it, right? And so that is, to me, that's frustrating. And so, and I get it, right? And that specific episode, if anyone's watching and they're like, yeah,
That's a good episode, honestly.
it's a great episode, but they could have done it in a bajillion different ways.
Yeah.
Take the party out and have some event happen in the med bay,
or
have
even
some
have
event
you can have a
engineering.
party, but you don't have to talk like you're like high school girls.
Oh,
thing,
it's
right?
just even honestly, I got to tell you, even just the fact that there's a party on the starship, just it doesn't make sense. That's not how these ships work. And I get it; they're a little bit different. They play by some different rules. They've got this kind of renegade captain, but in the same token, that's not how starships work. That's not how any of this works, you know? Right? And so, like, there's order and there's rules in place, and so for that just to be happening and everyone to be turning a blind eye to it just doesn't make any sense, especially for some of the like top end officers on the ship being at that party, right? Like it just doesn't make any sense. And so the people writing those stories to me then, as I'm watching that episode, go, well, they obviously brought someone in that doesn't know anything about Star Trek. And maybe that was what they wanted to do. Maybe they wanted something completely different. But in my opinion, in a series like that, it doesn't land. It's the same thing as bringing in the Devil May Cry guy to make a Final Fantasy game. If you're going to bring in the Devil May Cry guy, make a Devil May Cry game. Don't make a Final Fantasy game, or make a Final Fantasy game, but make it Final Fantasy May Cry, right? Like, make it something else it's its own thing. Make it the Final Fantasy VII Fortnite game. Right? It doesn't have to be the next game.
Fucking thing, yeah.
If you're gonna go Final Fantasies 1 through 15 as turn-based combat, and all of a sudden be like, we're going adventure-based attacking combos this time. That's what we're gonna do. I don't understand, and it's obvious it's not my IP. But in the same token, now I'm not gonna buy that game.
Yeah, because it doesn't really appeal to me at all.
Zero, and not to mention, and like. So you've held this opinion right from the get-go, and you got flamed online. Like the fanboys came out in masses to come out and be like, "You're wrong. You should buy it anyways, just because." How good does it feel now looking at that? And even I know I can see the scores, the meta scores, right? It's still in like the 7s or something like that. But you look back at the meta scores for some of the top end Final Fantasy games, hell, even some of the not so top end Final Fantasy games, and it's one of the lower scores that's out there. And people have the same comments. It's boring. It's gray. It feels safe. It's kind of like Game of Thrones, but it's got these weird characters that nobody really cares about because none of this stuff really matters. How does
you only play as one character the entire game?
Yeah.
Your only weapon is a sword the whole game?
How does that feel?
Give me some party members, man.
I feel I can't help but feel like it would be, like you'd feel justified in that opinion that you had, but also kind of sad because you knew this was going to happen. They did it anyways. Yeah. Is it technically successful? Right? Have they
They're
sold
saying
enough
it's
copies?
Successful because it sold 3 million copies in the first week. And
that doesn't sound like a lot.
And the
like,
PS5,
I know it is a lot,
there's only like 10 or like 8 million PS5 owners or something like that. So they're like, oh, that's a fraction of the player base. But whatever. Here's the thing. It can do fine. Like, people obviously like it, which is great.
Great. Hey,
but
awesome.
For myself and a lot of other longtime JRPG players, lovers, and supporters, it's just not for us. And I have no interest in playing it, and that's basically all it comes down to. I didn't even watch like the entire game. I watched some clips on YouTube, and I was like, yeah, I'm glad I didn't get this game. I'm glad I didn't buy an $800 PS5 and the $100 game. Yeah, no shit.
To play this game of all the games they could have released.
Yeah.
I think for me, I'm the most disappointed because when they first announced the game, it was like, this is going to be amazing.
Yeah, it didn't really
Look at
show
all this stuff.
gameplay, and it did look good when they
And
first announced it.
and honestly, even like what they showed in that, is that really even how the game ended up being?
I
Because
think
I got to
so.
tell you, I remember seeing like some of the teaser trailer footage, and then what came out of the game, and I'm like, this isn't even close to the same feeling. It just doesn't even feel like that epic anymore. It's just now another generic hack and slashy kind of game.
Yeah.
And people are gonna get mad. There's skill involved, blah blah blah, Souls games, whatever. But you're literally a guy running around with a sword doing this
Yeah,
in a bunch
mashing
of
square.
different moves.
Sometimes you hit
jumping around.
triangle.
Maybe you have to dodge once or twice, but it's not. There's strategy, but it's different strategy,
Yeah.
right? Like
it's just not the kind of games we want to play, especially
it's not
the kind of Final Fantasy game.
It's not a Final Fantasy game.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
What it boils down to.
I think that if they would have called it, they could have called it Final Fantasy something else.
Something, yeah.
You know, Stranger Paradise was a perfect example,
Yeah.
but even then, Stranger Paradise was still a freaking turn-based game. So I don't know.
It wasn't turn-based, but it had job classes and stuff like that.
Current age turn-based. I don't know if you're ever gonna get like actual turn-based from Final Fantasy ever again. I got to tell you, Square Enix is at a point where they don't understand what remake means. They don't I don't even know. Do they even understand what RPG means anymore?
No.
Take the Dragon Quest franchise out of the picture.
Yeah. No, I'm talking just strictly Final
only,
Fantasy.
I think that's their only nugget that they've got that's still true to the original from where they used to be. Everything else, they've been like, well, we need to change this because obviously it was so successful before. We can't have
Why
that.
Why would we want to make our fans happy?
I know. We'll create one of the greatest selling games of all time, but we'll change everything about it. You know, all those things that you loved about the game, well, now you're in a dress and you can pay for it.
Jesus. Yeah.
I don't know. It is what it is. I guess the thing with to kind of segue back to our topic, some of the best Final Fantasy games are on the Super Nintendo, right?
Yeah.
Like,
oh yeah, absolutely.
Those first few Final Fantasies, and so I've been playing through them. I'm just about finished Final Fantasy V. I'm like this close. I'm pretty sure I'm like at the door to the boss.
Yeah, you
Pretty
probably
close.
are.
And so you were telling me excuse me, you were telling me to play Final Fantasy IV. And I was like, well, you know, I know Final Fantasy VI is supposed to be good, so I'm going there. And you're like, no, you need to play 4. 4 is really good. And I'm like, okay, fair enough.
Yeah, 4 is my favorite.
Which was Final Fantasy 2?
Yeah.
Okay, so Final Fantasy 2, it's so confusing. But Final Fantasy 2/4, amazing game.
Yeah,
absolutely
so
phenomenal. The storyline for that game was epic. And I mean, like, the fact that it's on a freaking Super Nintendo,
I know,
and how they can pull out, like, they have moments where they can pull that emotion just by putting in different sound effects,
and
music.
The music will fade into something else, or be replaced with something else.
Phenomenal what they could do. The Super Nintendo is an absolute gem. Honestly, at this point in time, I would be willing to say, of all the like retro consoles, hands down my favorite.
That's your favorite.
If I was to rank all of these consoles, it would 100% be my number one.
Really?
Simply because even now, as I'm going through the library and playing these games that I never did as a kid, even now I'm like, how did they do this? This was absolutely amazing.
That mode 7, once they kind of figured that out, that changed everything again too. Well, I guess I think, did they have mode 7 in Final Fantasy 4? I think when you're in the Red Wings, maybe at the start there.
Maybe, they had.
I know there's a ton of mode 7 stuff in fucking 6.
The problem is, I played the version that's on the PS1.
It's identical though. It's just the same as the Japanese version, basically.
Okay, yeah. So they like when you're flying the airship, you've got that kind of like 3D, 2D kind of looking thing.
Yeah, how it's like angled down, and you're
But I mean, they had that right from day one. I mean, F-Zero has that too, right?
Yeah, that's
Like,
that mode 7. Yeah.
yeah. And so, yeah, I gotta tell you, there's so many. We'll jump into a bunch of them, but I mean, like Final Fantasy 4, 5 was Super Famicom, so I don't know if that technically counts, but it is
Yeah,
the
I would
same
include
system.
it.
But 5 has been a ton of fun, by the way, and
Yeah, dude.
that's been
I knew you
really
were gonna. You're
really
like,
good.
everybody keeps telling me about 6. I never hear anything about 5. I was like, dude, you gotta fucking.
You
5
gotta
is
play
like,
5.
if you don't count, if Final Fantasy Tactics is not allowed to be counted, Final Fantasy 5 is my third favorite mainline Final Fantasy game. Like, it is. I love it, man. It's so good.
Yeah, yeah.
It's just like the funnest one.
It's fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a lot of fun. I mean, there's a few points in the story where it's like pretty heavy.
Yeah, yeah.
It doesn't hit nearly as hard as Final Fantasy 4 did.
Yeah, yeah.
But the story was pretty good. Not top
No.
end. I wouldn't say is the best, but
I
it's
agree.
significantly not the worst. The job class system, for somebody who knows nothing about this, I thought that was difficult to learn, but once I got it, then it was good to go after that.
Yeah.
But at first I was like, I was starting to feel overwhelmed because there's so many choices. It's like, well, you could do this or you could do that. Oh, by the way, here's some more we just unlocked for you. And it's like, you don't want to switch over so many times. You want to get them leveled up so that you master them, right?
Yeah.
That's where I'm at, right? As I've mastered these, and now I'm my guy with no job class, and you carry forward this stuff anyway. And so that's been really fun. And so I'm moving my way now into Final Fantasy VI, which was the last one to be released on the Super Nintendo, which is really, really popular, which I don't know. Was it popular before Final Fantasy VII? Or was it popular because of Final Fantasy VII?
No, it was vastly popular. Like, my cousins borrowed 4 and 6, but like most people, like a lot of people who own the NES, if they were into JRPGs, I would say all of them had Final Fantasy VI.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I had never, I mean, at the time, I had never even heard of RPGs, right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, gaming to me was like arcadey type games. And
yeah.
Like and we talked about it on the Genesis podcast, right? The Genesis was the absolute definition. When you think about video games, you're going to sit down in front of your TV for an hour and you're going to play a video game.
Yeah.
It's a racing game. It's a fighting game. It's a whatever.
Shooter,
right? But,
like crazy action platformer, stuff like that.
But they weren't like games that you would play for hours, right? Like you would play them for hours, but it was like a game and then you would just play it for hours, right?
Yeah, like the old arcade style.
Yeah, and so I had, at the time, I didn't even know these RPGs existed like this. I knew of like the text-based ones where it's like, you walk into a room, turn left, do here. Like, what was that one that they released? The Immortal or whatever it is on Switch Online, where it's like you've got a box and then you've got the little arrows and then items, and you like walk forward, you open the door, you pick up a key, you do. And those aren't games for me, but that's what I knew an RPG to be at the time, right? And so when Final Fantasy VII came out, that was great, and I was like, well, okay, but it's number 7. What happened to the first 6? Right? And so then you start to learn about it. And again, rewind time, the internet wasn't really a thing then.
It was, but it wasn't.
It was, but it wasn't. You had to,
what it is
you had to have access to it, and it wasn't simple.
Yeah.
It wasn't simple to just go and find something, right? So, and so you could check, but I mean, unless you knew somebody who had these games, you didn't even know they existed, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, long story short,
Nintendo Power, like Nintendo Power had Final Fantasy 4. I don't know about 6, but I do know, like, I have the issue that has Final Fantasy 4 in it.
It would have had to have 6 in it because it was exclusive to the Super Nintendo, right?
Yeah,
like
so they would have
been a major title for them
as well.
Absolutely. And so, especially, they would have absolutely hammered down on it when Final Fantasy VII released, because they would have tried to capture some of the excitement about Final Fantasy VII, because they moved off the Nintendo, right? When Sony made the PlayStation, that's where Squaresoft ended up with over on Sony's count. So anyway, long story short, some of these games, it blows my mind. I referenced F-Zero
Yeah,
earlier.
that's a really good one. And that's like a
That is
launch title too, I think,
It
or
was a
really
launch
close.
title.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it was. It was a launch title. Absolutely. That has been a game I have loved since day one. And when I bought my Super Nintendo again, right? That was the first game I bought with it, and I
Yeah.
still play that damn game. Like, it is just so fun. There's something about that game because it's just so simplistic
Mm-hmm.
to just be able to
Yeah.
sit down and just play it.
And just
And
like it does a really good job of like giving you that speed
oh,
effect and stuff,
absolutely.
right?
Absolutely. So that one's probably one of my favorites. I know I'm kind of jumping all over the place here. Where do you where do you want to start with the console? Do you want to talk about like our experiences with it?
Yeah.
Where we started with it?
Yeah, yeah. Let's
For
start. What was your first experience on the Super
Yeah, yeah,
Nintendo? Even
yeah.
like if
So
even if it's before you guys had one, like what was your
no,
first?
well, the honestly, the first experience I had with the Super Nintendo was my older brother bought one, right?
Right.
So it's 1994, and my older brother is saving. He was really good at saving money. I was not good at saving money. He was great at saving money, and so we had a neighbor who had hired him to basically cut her lawn for him.
Right.
And it was like once a week, $20, something like that, whatever. Anyway, he saved up enough money to get the Super Nintendo pack that had the Mario World, the two controllers.
Oh yeah.
And so I remember him buying that. He had gone into the city with mom and dad, and they came back, and he bought this game and was hooked it all up and was like, here. And we unhooked our NES
Yeah.
to plug in his SNES.
Did you have to unscrew it? Do like the coax, the little screw on that, or did you have
No,
AV cables?
we had AV cables.
Oh.
He did have the RF switch, but I'm positive that we used the AV cables.
Dude, I
'cause we
remember
those
I
in there.
had so with the Genesis one just slid on and it
Yeah,
was like tight enough to stay, but the
yeah,
NES had to screw on, right? So what I ended up
yeah,
doing was I screwed my NES one onto my Genesis one so that I could just slide it on when I would
yeah,
need to, and then both are hooked up all the time.
yeah. My Genesis still has that as the default connection because the AV cables didn't come with it,
Oh,
so it's just the freaking RF adapter. Um. So anyway, so yeah, so he brought that home. We played Super Mario World, and that was mind blowing,
yeah.
right? Like moving from the NES to the SNES was insane
Yeah, it
because
was.
it was a massive upgrade in graphics, right?
Yeah.
Like the Master System to the Genesis didn't even feel as stark as it is.
No.
The Master System had really good
I feel like
graphics, but
if you look at some of the late NES games from like 96, they're comparable
sure.
maybe to early Super NES games,
But
but not all
it
of
would be
them.
close.
Yeah,
It would
yeah.
be really close. But yeah, I remember those first bit, and then so it was his system too, and I 94, I would have been about 8, right?
Yeah.
So I was a little d bag, and so in your family of boys, you're constantly fighting. He's like, "This is mine. Don't you ever frickin' touch it. I own this. This isn't yours. If you ever need it, you ask my permission for it." And
Right.
so anyway,
Yeah, you can't even go to your parents, right? Like he fucking
no,
bought it.
because it's his. It's
Yeah.
100%. And so I never actually owned any games for it. He owned quite a few cartridges for it, but that playing that Super Mario World was like that's a core memory for me.
Yeah.
Like because the ability to play two players, and I mean, and obviously like it was his, but he didn't just sit there and play one player on it, right? Like
Yeah.
he was like, yeah, let's play two player. We'll play together, right? So
Yeah.
and so that was really cool. And then I'm just like the next closest thing I have would be when I bought was we were up in the me and Finney, we were up in the city. We went to that game shop that we like in Saskatoon.
Right.
And he was like, "Oh, I just got the Super Nintendo brought in. I just cleaned it up. I'll sell it to you for $60 with F-Zero." I was like, "Done." Sold. And so I
Man
ended
knows
up
how
buying
to
it
sell a
from him.
Super Nintendo. What can I say?
Yeah, and so like, and I mean, and I'm thinking back, like that wasn't even that long ago. That would have been maybe
No, that's been a while ago
15
now.
years ago now, I
Yeah.
guess at this point. But like even in those 15 years, like you can't get You can't get a new clean system with 2 controllers, all the hookups,
Yeah.
brand new AC adapter with a game. He sold to me for $60, and that was in a store. That wasn't like a garage sale or anything
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that. And like I think it's like $150 now in order to
Could
get the
be
same
with
setup,
that.
if
Yeah,
not
with 2
more.
controllers and all that.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
insane. So, but yeah, that would be like the next core memory. We still, and even on the Super Nintendo back then, the closest thing I played to an RPG, I think I had played Super Mario RPG at our buddy Chad's house.
Oh
That would have
yeah,
been
that's
like
the
the
only that's the only
closest.
time
And
I experienced it too, was at
eh,
Chad's.
RPGs, that was my first real experience with RPGs, was over at his place because he had them. That
Yeah.
was his thing, right? He
Yeah.
was playing what was it? So he was playing the Lufia
Yeah, I was gonna say
games.
he always played the shit out of the Lufia games.
Loved the Lufia games. He had
Yeah.
Super Mario RPG and Secret of Mana, I think was the other one. Like those ones were right up his alley, eh?
Yeah.
And not so much for me.
No.
I didn't have a good attention span for it, but yeah,
But a lot
I've
of
got
those
a
are
lot.
action RPGs too, right? Like
I
I'm
think
not a big
so.
action RPG guy, so Lufia isn't, but like Secret of Mana and stuff was kind of more
Yeah,
actiony.
yeah, yeah. Great. It's just like the whole the whole library of games. Chrono Trigger was another one that he had too,
Oh my
which
god,
I didn't
dude.
actually
I didn't play
play.
that until it came out on the PS1 in the Final
I
Fantasy Chronicles.
I played Chrono Trigger for the first time last year,
Yeah, that's crazy,
and
dude.
it was amazing. The other
It
thing
is
that was
really
that
good.
the other thing that I think is really crazy about that is that I didn't know anything about the game still. Almost what,
You killed
20
Magus,
years?
dude.
Well, I
That
didn't know. He disrespected my boy Frog. He had to go.
Oh, that was like, oh
It was
man,
so
that
funny.
would hurt me to see, because he joins your party if you spare him, and
Not
he's
when he's
really
dead.
good. Oh man,
I basically vowed that I'd play it again. The thing is, like,
there's like a
I
million. There's
I
like 36 endings to Chrono Trigger,
oh
by the
yeah,
way.
apparently it was amazing. The way that I play those games, especially now, like as I'm streaming them and I'm playing through them,
Yeah,
I don't run a guide. I don't want to know what's coming down the road. I
yeah,
want to play it based on how we're going with it. Even with Final Fantasy V, it's been a little bit of a struggle.
yeah,
And I get the thing is I get a lot of help from chat, which is nice.
yeah.
But they're also gracious enough to wait until I ask for it too, right? And so with Chrono Trigger, nobody said anything,
You don't. You almost
anything.
don't. I don't think you need it in Chrono Trigger. It's pretty like
Oh, the
you
guide
almost
was.
always know where to
I
go.
don't. I don't think a guide was really necessary. But nobody said anything as I was fighting Magus. Not one soul.
Oh
Nobody
shit.
said, "Don't fight him. He'll join you." Everyone was just like, "If that's what you want to do, I guess." And that
Oh
was that. So, I will 100% play that game again, and on the next one, obviously, I won't kill the guy.
yeah,
But all the things that added up to that point, right? And
yeah.
like it gives you an opportunity to fight, but the way that I took it, and I don't remember the wording of it, but the way that I basically took it was, if you don't fight this guy, Frog's going to be mad at you. And I didn't want Frog to leave the party. So I was like, forget it. This dude's dead. I don't give a crap about this
Oh
guy. And because I didn't know. And I mean, at that point, Frog is Glenn, right? And so there
yeah,
was
yeah,
already the reveal there. And I was like, I don't want freaking. Because Frog's was in my party, right?
yeah,
Like he
yeah.
was like in
Yeah, I
there.
was gonna
And
ask you. So
yeah.
who was your like top 3 guys in
I
Chrono Trigger?
My party was primarily Chrono, Robo, and then Frog swapped out for Line. Who's the princess?
Marl.
Marl. I would swap out Frog every now and then, depending on the situation, because I
Yeah, you
used
do.
Marl as a healer,
Yeah, you do swap.
and
them
she
in
was
and out.
helping me out with that. So, and I mean, not to mention, I think there was a period of time where Frog leaves the party as well.
Yeah,
I didn't use Luca nearly at all. Luca wasn't really my jam.
yeah.
And I can't remember the name of the prehistoric chick, but
Yeah, Ayla.
Ayla. Yeah, I didn't use her at all,
Oh,
like
okay.
literally at all. But me and Robo,
Yeah,
Chrono and
Robo's
Robo,
really
were
good
like best
too.
friends. Yeah.
I usually use Chrono, and then oh man, I kind of use everybody like Chrono, Frog for sure, Robo, and Ayla. Like Ayla is really power. She's got some really powerful
She's all
dual
like
techs.
physical attacker,
Yeah,
right?
she's got really powerful dual techs with Chrono. Um, and Robo's got some good heals, and Frog has heals, but they're kind of shitty. Hey, but
They're not great.
yeah,
His I was all about those sword
yeah,
attacks. Like, man, he's slicing and dicing.
yeah. It's
Man,
so
what a
cool.
good game.
It
What a
is so
good
good,
game.
dude.
And the music in that game and like it's
Yeah,
just
dude.
honestly like it's literally a masterpiece.
Well,
If for whatever reason you never played that game, you need to play
oh,
that game.
absolutely.
Like
Yeah, it's
you
a must
have
play.
to. That is out of all the games that I've ever played, it would be the one game I would recommend to somebody who's never played it. Like, no,
Yeah.
you have to play
Especially
this
like
one.
someone
It's
who hasn't
amazing.
played a JRPG before too, it'd be a really good
100%.
representation.
100%. But I
Yeah.
mean, even if you're like, no, I don't like RPGs, it doesn't feel like one. Yeah, okay, turn based, yes, okay, that stuff of it. But the story and the music and the environment, it's just everything about it. It's
Yeah,
absolutely
it's so
phenomenal.
good. Even like when you go to the future, and
Mhm.
instead of music, it just has like that dusty, raspy wind
Yeah.
sound instead of a because
Yeah.
it's like it's just the world's
It's
decimated.
destroyed.
Yeah,
Yeah,
dude, it's so good.
so good.
What so what's like your favorite Super Nintendo game? Like your say like top 3 if you had to. Like keep in mind you haven't finished Final Fantasy V and you haven't played 6.
Yeah, that's
you
true.
played 6 up to getting Setzer's airship years and years ago.
Yeah, I played Final Fantasy VI and then my game crashed and I lost my save
Yeah.
file and then I never went back to it. Man, that's tough. That's really hard. If we're basing it purely on sentimental reasons and nothing more than sentimental reasons, I would have to say F-Zero's in that list. There's this game called Super Bowling. Have you ever played
Yeah,
this game?
you told me to download it once. It's pretty fun.
It's so much fun, and that game especially because we would rent that game from the video store in like there was a city in our hometown didn't have the largest selection of games, so sometimes
Yeah.
we'd rent from the city, and that was one we rented from the city so many times, and it's just a fun game. There's no story, it's just literally just bowling, right? But it's just one of those games where you just sit down and play. I actually have
Yeah.
a boxed copy of the damn
Oh,
game.
nice.
Yeah, as my older brother bought me the boxed copy of that, and I believe also boxed copy of Legend of Zelda.
Oh,
I think.
okay.
Oh no, sorry, Donkey Kong Country 2.
Ooh.
And so yeah, I would say F-Zero. Probably would say Super Bowling. To pick 3, man, that's tough. Chrono Trigger would 100% be up there, but I don't know if it counts because I didn't play it until way
No,
later.
I'm saying like of all time, best Super
Oh,
Nintendo
well, I
games.
mean, that's absolutely on the list, right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, that was one of those games where when I finished it, I just set the controller down. I was like, I can't believe this is over. Like, it was so good.
Yeah,
it was
it is.
so unbelievably good. A Link to the Past was good from what I remember, but it's been a long time since I played it.
Yeah.
And I would absolutely have to replay it again. I don't think I would put it in my top 3, though.
No,
and
I
then
don't think I would either. It's
and
probably my
then-
favorite Zelda or second favorite Zelda game.
Yeah, and then I think Super Mario World has to be on that game too, just for sentimental reasons. Just because again, it's just a fun play, and I remember like as a kid, playing these games right with family, and
Yeah.
just like those moments, right?
Yeah,
Ken
yeah.
Griffey Jr. baseball has to be on that
Everybody
list.
had. I swear, everyone. If you had a Super Nintendo, everybody had that game.
It was such a good game. Yeah, I think that I would draw. I have to draw the line there, but there's so many.
Yeah.
There's so many good games. But yeah, I would say that F-Zero would definitely be on the list, and then it would be a really hard pick for the other ones. for me.
Yeah.
What about you?
For me, so my first time playing a Super Nintendo was probably at my cousin's, like my auntie's. They had they got that Donkey Kong Country one, the bundle
The
or whatever.
combo set.
Yeah, and that was So Donkey Kong Country was probably the first Super Nintendo game I played, and I loved it. I just couldn't get
Which
past.
is that's late. That's 96.
Yeah, yeah. I was
No,
playing
no,
NES and
94.
Genesis until then, right?
That's 94.
Yeah, 94. Yeah, it sounds right. Because 96, the
94.
PlayStation came out.
Yeah. No, so I must have been off. Earlier I said 94 for
It might
the
have been
bundle set.
92 even, dude.
I'm trying to think. Did the Super Nintendo launch without Super Mario World?
I don't think
Or did
so.
it come out? Okay, so then it would have been 91 or 92 then that
Okay.
Jason got the Super Nintendo. Because if Donkey Kong Country came out in 94 and the combo set came out, because your cousin, your cousin that used to have the grandparents that lived across the street from me,
Yeah.
he had the Donkey Kong Country combo set.
Oh, okay.
And I remember going over to his house and playing Donkey Kong Country and Killer Instinct.
Yeah, yeah. He had
And he
Donkey
had
Kong
both
Country,
of those
Killer
games.
Instinct. Yeah, I remember
Yeah.
playing that.
And
game.
so if that's the case, I because I'm getting old in my years right here, to think like 91 was freaking 32 years ago.
Yeah, dude.
And so yeah, it would be 91 or 92 then that Jason would have got that Mario
okay.
World one. Yeah. So anyway, sorry, cut you off. 94,
No worries.
Donkey Kong Country.
Yeah, we would play Donkey Kong Country, and there was that fucking snow level where it's like,
Oh yeah.
I could never beat it
Where
like
it's like
ever.
blinding you out.
Yeah, and I remember I think my cousin beat it once. Like I saw the ending before me and you streamed it, but like I've never beaten it before. And then they had that, and then they did have Super Mario World, and then they had Super Mario All Stars. And
Oh, okay.
I remember playing a lot of the lost levels because we thought it was cool that there was like this secret Mario game, right?
Right.
So
The
we
ones
might-
that didn't make the game.
yeah. So we played a lot of that. Super Mario World we played a lot of, but I never or no, I had beat it, but maybe like one time. So like
Right.
when I played with you, like when me and you played that, you pretty much carried me like the whole last half of the game. Same with like when we did Donkey Kong Country 2.
Well, those games, those are the ones that I played,
Yeah.
right? Like where you, I think you grew up more the RPG games, right? So like the person I was talking about before, the people who were RPG fans,
Yeah.
they knew these RPG games. They found them, they played them. I didn't even know they existed. So the games that I played were the Marios, the Donkey Kong
Yeah.
Countries, the Metroids, the ones that everyone was playing because they were the popular games.
Yeah.
But I mean, you've never really been a Mario fan, right?
No,
I think
I'm not
out
a
of
big
all the
Mario guy.
games,
But
I think out of all the
I
Mario
also
games,
didn't
World
really.
was probably one you played.
What's
good.
that?
I said I think out of all the Mario games, World was probably the one that you like enjoyed.
Yeah,
at least.
Mario World is probably the best one. I think, like
Mhm.
the one I like the most. But I didn't really. I was into JRPGs on the NES, but when it came to the Genesis, like I didn't know there were any JRPGs on it. So I pretty much
Right.
just played like Contra, Sonic the Hedgehog, stuff like
Yeah.
that on that. So. But the Super NES, it was pretty much primarily always played at my auntie's because I didn't get a Super Nintendo myself until my wife moved in with me because
Right,
she
okay.
has a Super Nintendo. And I'd play it at, when we started dating, I'd play it at her place a lot. Like she had Kirby's Dream Course, which is like a Kirby golf game kind of thing. It's pretty fun. And then she had Kirby Avalanche, which I thought was weird because I had Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine, and they're both Puyo Pop, but the Genesis version is Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine, and the Super Nintendo version is Kirby's Avalanche. It's literally the same
Really?
game. Yeah,
It's the same game.
yeah, just
I had
different
no idea.
characters. Yeah. Yeah, it was, so that was
That's pretty
weird
funny.
because we both grew up playing the same game, but but it was like a different game, but it was the same game.
Opposite sides.
Yeah.
A modern day Romeo and Juliet.
Yeah, the only other time I remember playing a Super Nintendo at someone's house, I played one of our neighbors across the back alley. They were like adults kind of thing, but my parents would go over there and bring us. And they had, what did they have? So they had Final Fantasy Mystic Quest, which I didn't know was a Final Fantasy game. But it was so weird, but I do remember liking it. But it's a very weird game. And then I didn't play much. Like I got to there's like a forest boss. I got to the forest boss. It's like the second boss is the furthest I would
Okay.
ever get. And then what else did they have? I can't remember now. They had like that, and they had A Link to the Past. That's where I played A Link to the Past the first time, was
Okay.
at their place. And then they had Turtles in Time as well. And so
Love that
those
game.
were like the only games that they had, but I played
Right.
I mostly played A Link to the Past. Like, I played a lot of A Link to the Past. That's probably the Super Nintendo game I played the most, because I didn't play Final Fantasy 4, 5, 6,
Right.
or Chrono Trigger until they were
Until, like,
re-released
later.
on the PS1.
Yeah. You know what's funny about Link to the Past? I remember playing it a lot. I borrowed that from somebody as a kid, and I remember playing it a ton. And I have a copy of it. I own the game. But I don't think I even popped it back into my Super Nintendo since then,
Yeah.
right? Because I kind of fell away from Zelda.
Yeah, same.
Zelda's always been one of those games that like on paper I should like that game,
Mhm.
right? And then I play it and I'm like, I don't like this game.
Yeah, I find them kind of like boring or something, and then like they're too puzzly. Like, I'm not a big puzzle guy.
I'm
so.
not puzzle. Yeah, that it's just there's a lot. Like I made a good run at Ocarina of Time, a really good run at it. And there's some of the temples I can't do. And like I said, I don't follow guides. So
Yeah.
a lot of people are like, "Oh, it's easy, blah blah," because they played it 1,000 times,
yeah.
or they have the walkthrough open while they're going. Well,
Yeah.
anybody can follow instructions. Do it without the guide. Do it completely. Never played it. First playthrough. Don't follow a guide. And you come and tell me that it's so simple.
That's the
Because
true test of
that's the
a
thing, it's
good
not real.
good classic game, right? Because
Mhm.
you can call anything like really good, but if it's only because you know it inside and out, and somebody new would just struggle and get frustrated, then it's probably doesn't actually hold up as well as you thought it would.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's a common theme with every Zelda game up to the latest one, which was not the newest.
Breath of the Wild.
Breath of the Wild. Breath of the Wild, I really really enjoyed.
Yeah.
And the reason why I found this out later, Breath of the Wild was partly designed by Monolith Soft.
Yeah.
By the team
They
that
like,
did
the world and
freaking
stuff,
Xenoblade.
right?
They did the world building. They did a lot of like the environment, the music in the game. Like it's very very well done. The puzzles exist, but they're not so incredibly complicated and complex that they're frustrating. It's just kind of the right amount. I didn't play the absolute newest one, The Time to Remember.
Tears.
Tears
Holy
of the
yeah.
Kingdom.
Sounds like a James Bond movie.
Tears of the Kingdom. I didn't even pick it up because games cost $90 here, and if I'm not gonna love it, I'm not buying it day one.
Yeah.
I'll either borrow it from somebody or wait until it's $30 on buy and sell. Pick up a copy then, but. Which I'm not going to be able to do much longer if games keep going the way that they are, going digital and costing more money.
Doubt.
But
it's brutal.
But
when did you start playing Super Punch Out? Because you're really
Super
fucking good at
Punch Out.
Super Punch Out.
Yeah, so that's another one that we always used to rent from that store. For as good as I am at Super Punch Out, of the three of us, like me and my two brothers, I'm the weakest of the three. Jason could beat that game back in the day, right? Like with no issues. My little brother could. I gave him one of those SNES minis as a Christmas present a couple years back, and it's got Super Punch Out on it. He was sending me pictures of fighting Nick and Rick Bruiser.
He started sending us his times too. Remember?
Yeah. Oh yeah, no. So I mean, like, for anyone who's like, "Oh man, DG, you're actually really good at this," no, I'm nothing compared to those guys. And the thing is, it's because those games are based on rhythm and on memorizing patterns.
Yeah.
And so I have cognitive failure in that.
Gotcha.
But I mean, the thing is, like, for those first three worlds, I've played that game so many times that it's just burned into my memory. I remember also Chad had that game too. And so that would have been probably my first like real introduction into the game. And I remember they played that game like to the, and if I'm not mistaken, I believe his dad also played that game too.
Oh,
I was
okay.
always so jealous of him because his dad played video games with them, and I wanted my dad to play video games with me so
That's
bad.
funny.
And he would be like, "Oh yeah, my dad's playing. He bought this game, this fishing game. He's playing on my suit. I wanted to play RPGs, but he's playing this fishing game." And I'm like, "Play the game with him. Just set him." No, but yeah. So that's really cool, and it's something I get to do with my kids now too.
Yeah.
I don't remember if I said this in the Genesis podcast or not, but I've literally got them set up on my Genesis with Sonic 2.
Yeah, you were saying that in the last
Yes, I was, and then
podcast.
you told me to plug the second controller in so someone can play as Tails.
Oh, you
So I
didn't
did
know?
that.
You weren't doing
I had
that?
no idea. No, I had no idea. I always thought it was a
Oh.
single player. I thought one player was you, and then two player it does that like weird.
Yeah, it
close
does do that.
stretch
But it's
split
got
screen.
terrible slowdown.
Terrible, like it's awful. And so anyway, so I plugged my second controller in. Well, wouldn't you know it? Now I can have both of them playing because they were fighting over who got to play, and I was like, no, when you die, you switch controllers. But now they both get a controller, and so I was showing them like, well, whoever now they fight over who gets to play Tails because the other person's the one who gets killed, right?
Too much
And
stress.
so,
That's funny.
and so yeah, but I mean, it's something that I kind of get to do with them too. They're just coming into that age now where my oldest is 9 now, right?
Mhm.
So she's able to kind of get how this stuff works.
Yeah.
I tried to show her Pokemon. I think that was just too much of a leap. I think she needs to be a bit older for that. But
Yeah, maybe.
a lot of this other stuff, I'm thinking like, those Super Nintendo games. I'm going to introduce them to F-Zero and see if they can do it because I wouldn't
F-Zero's
mind.
hard, I think.
F-Zero's really hard,
Yeah.
but it's just about learning. The biggest secret to F-Zero that I can give to anyone is that like you can use the brake to get around corners,
Yeah.
but what I do is there's an accelerator and a brake. There's 2 buttons in the game. So I use accelerator, and then as I'm about to come up to the corner, I start tapping accelerator. Tap, 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 tap. And you'll make that corner every single time.
Oh, really?
And the faster you tap it, the quicker you'll turn. The slower you tap it, you'll make like a longer turn.
Oh,
But you slow
weird.
down just enough that you can make that turn, but not so much that the rubber banding awful AI comes and passes
Pulls.
you. And then as
Oh.
soon as you hit a straightaway, bam, hit start, and
yeah,
then you hit
use
your turbo. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fun.
Except for stage 4, Death Wind. That's an awful stage. No matter what, that's still awful.
Dude,
even
I
now,
love.
but
Have you ever played like the N64 and GameCube F-Zeros?
I've touched them, but I've never played
Oh,
them.
they're
Right? I've
so
never actually
fucking
played them.
good, dude.
I was terrified with N64 and GameCube F-Zeros that they're so fast
Yeah, they
that
are
I
really
wouldn't-
fast, but you
that I
do get
wouldn't
used to it.
like them. And the problem was like I was like, I'm not gonna like this game, and I didn't want to ruin my F-Zero experience.
Yeah.
And not to mention, I didn't have really. We had an N64 late in the N64's lifespan,
Yeah.
and I think I had 3 games because games were expensive for the 64. They're like $90 a pop back then.
Yeah.
And I never owned a GameCube. I still don't own a GameCube.
Right. Do you have a Wii,
and-
like an original style Wii?
I have an original Wii, and I have a GameCube controller.
Okay, so you
But,
can play GameCube games
I
on
could,
the Wii.
I could, yeah. But yeah, it's just that was a console I never got into. By that point in the game, I was so hardcore into the Xbox 360 and the PS2 that was it? No, not Xbox 360.
Original. It would have been original Xbox.
GameCube, Xbox, PS1,
PS2.
2.
Yeah.
Frick. So I was so into the Xbox, and then I had the PS2. The only games I owned on PS2 were Final Fantasy X, Final Fantasy 12, and what was the other game? NFL Street. And that's it. Those are the only games that I owned for my PS2. Everything else was on my Xbox. But at that point, I was a struggling college student. I had no money, so I
Yeah.
wasn't buying nothing. By the time I had any kind of disposable income, the 360 was out, the Wii was out, the PS3 was out, and I
Yeah.
was 100% in the Xbox 360 camp. For the little bit of money that I did have, that was where I was buying my games. And at that point, I was heavy into first-person shooters.
Right.
Gears of War I like those types of games. The Wii and the GameCube were in my rearview mirror long by that point.
Yeah, and
Which is
everybody
stupid
knew
because-
somebody that had a Wii, so you didn't even really need
Yeah.
one. Like most of the games
Yeah.
on the Wii were meant to be played with others. So
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
I think the only thing that I have with the GameCube, my older brother had one, and I remember playing Super Mario Strikers, and
Yeah,
that was
the
a
soccer
really
game.
fun game. That was a really fun game, for what it's worth.
yeah, I've never
But
played
yeah.
it, but I know Chad loves it too.
Yes, I don't know about any of the later entries to it, but that one on the GameCube, that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I don't,
Yeah,
dude.
but-
I don't have very many GameCube games at all. Like I have a GameCube,
There wasn't-
and it's like
There wasn't really a lot of like must plays for the game. The GameCube was a weird time
it was
for Nintendo.
It really.
I don't
was.
think they didn't really know what they wanted to do with their system, right?
Yeah.
They're trying at that point in time. Graphics were king, right?
Yeah.
The jump from PS1
the
to
GameCube
PS2
actually
to
had,
PS3.
I think, better. It had better graphics than the PS2, but I don't think better graphics than the Xbox.
No, the GameCube's. So Nintendo's always been a generation behind as far as it goes for graphics, as far as I'm concerned. But the thing was, with the consoles at that time, graphics were a huge component of the game, which really sucks because
Yeah.
that shouldn't be that important. But it was. People wanted to see those cinematics. People wanted
Yeah.
to see like when you're
That's why
playing those
Uncharted
games.
is as popular. Like Uncharted's really good. I love
Uncharted was
but
really
that's
good,
why
but it's a beautiful game.
So yeah,
And it's just well put together. So then you go from a game like Uncharted to a game on the GameCube, which are not awful, but they didn't hold up. I think Wind Waker would have been one that I would have said is a
Probably
must
looks-
play on the
yeah.
GameCube, and it looks really good. But it was all
Yeah.
cell shaded again, right?
yeah. Cell shaded holds up a lot better.
I never played Super Mario Sunshine.
No, I
It's
watched
not
Finney
my
play. The only
kinda
time
game.
I
I
did
don't know.
GameCube stuff was at pretty much Finney's place. Actually, Finney and his little brother, they had a GameCube, and that was where I would
Right.
play all mine. But
Yeah.
we, I think, is there anything else you think for the Super Nintendo?
Man, I could talk about the Super Nintendo forever. But I mean, I one other thing I think I'd like to say
Yeah.
about the Super Nintendo is that it is at the time, right? So at the time there was no analog sticks. I would have told you that the Super Nintendo controller was like top tier. And that
Yeah.
was because the PS1's not out yet, right? So if we're talking Genesis controller, NES, Master System, Super Nintendo,
Yeah,
I'm going Super Nintendo all day because that
Yeah.
controller just fits nicely, right? Like I know I said on the Genesis podcast that the big 3-button Batarang controller,
yeah,
that controller is really nice, but it only has 3 buttons on it, and so that creates a problem, right? You want to play a game
Yeah.
like Street Fighter, that controller is not going to work for you. That Super Nintendo had the 4 face buttons and the 2 shoulder buttons. This is my
Yeah,
first
made
introduction to
more
the shoulder
games
buttons, which
possible.
was really nice. And then I think that's what inspired the PS1 controller.
oh, absolutely, it did. Yeah,
Because you can just see it in the PS1 controller.
it's just a
How
Super
it-
Nintendo controller with
But the
handles.
grips
Yeah,
and the grips, man,
and trigger.
and they knew they had a winning unit in that because it's
they
the same
still
damn
pretty much
design.
use it. Yeah. I just wanted to point out and thank you for mentioning the whole Batarang thing, because when I was listening back the Genesis podcast, I was like, man, I can't believe we didn't mention how the Genesis controllers look like Batarangs. Like I remember when I was a kid, I would like fucking like lasso and like throw the
Oh,
fucking controller and stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. I've always referred to it as the Batarang controller, but I didn't know if that was a thing. That's just the way that
Yeah,
I looked
that's
at
what
it, but
I
I'm glad
I
to know
always
that's
was
the
like
case.
thought of them as like Batarangs.
We
And
played
then,
Batman Forever with the Batarang controller.
yeah, that's why you had to have it on the Genesis. But before we go, I just want to jump back in and say and ask how would you rank the Star Trek series then that you've seen? How would you
Jump
rank
all
them?
the way back to the beginning. How would I rank like each
Yeah,
series?
I forgot to ask you at the start. Yeah. So like
Ooh.
favorite so far down to least
Favorite
favorite, or
so
the other way
far.
around. You go least favorite to favorite.
So
it's just harder.
So
think.
I gotta tell you. So if can we ignore the finales? Can we ignore the final episode?
No,
we
but
just
you
talk
can
about the-
say
oh.
that. Oh yeah, sure. It just say that you did for that series because
So the
they
thing
all
is-
have almost bad endings. The only one I don't mind is Voyagers, but a lot of people hate
So,
that one the most.
I didn't
so.
like the Voyager ending. It wasn't the worst of all of them I've seen. So again, keeping in mind that I haven't seen Strange
It was
New
the
World.
worst of all of them. You would say?
No, not the worst. Not the worst. It was bad, but not the worst. So keeping in mind that I haven't seen Strange New World and that I haven't seen Picard yet. Okay, so those are going to be exempt from this because who knows? They'll probably be way up there. I gotta say, I really, really enjoyed Enterprise.
Yeah,
like, really.
Same,
I
dude.
haven't.
I love it.
When I've been watching these episodes, I'll usually watch 2 or 3, then I'll take a break, and then whatever I'll do whatever for the day or for a couple days. Then I'll come back and I'll watch another couple. Right? I binge watched Enterprise.
Yeah, you flew through it. It was like under a week, man.
It was 8 days it took me to get through all 4 seasons of it. And Enterprise had the worst theme song. It was so bad that it was almost like a joke. Like,
it's like a meme now, yeah.
My wife was upstairs and she was like, "What are you watching?" And I was like, "It's been a long road."
Getting
there to here. And so I got to tell you, out of all of them I've seen, I would put Enterprise at number 1. So it was so
especially
good.
season 4. Hey, season 4 was
so
just
good.
gold. Until parts of the last episode were pretty
they
bad.
Ruined.
You could edit that last episode and make it like the best of the last episode.
You know what? They didn't need that last episode.
No,
they didn't need it.
So okay, I don't remember. Does he do the speech to found the Federation?
He does it at that's where the show ends. As he's walking out onto the stage, that's where it ends. But
so
you know what?
You gotta have that part.
But they could have taken that little 2-minute thing and put it on the episode after.
Like the one before, you mean? Yeah.
Before. Because before they're like going around, they made up this story, right? They're like, we're on the way to go and give a speech. And then Shran's like, "Yo, what's up? I got this daughter you guys don't know anything about. She's in trouble. You gotta help me." And they're like, "I guess we gotta go help them." And I mean, Shran's fantastic.
Shran's the best.
But like they're like, "I guess we gotta go help them then." So then they go and do that, and then they go like the whole thing is set up to do what they did at the end, and I got to tell you,
if they would have just replaced, they could have.
Didn't like that.
You could like scalp those 2 episodes together and cut out all the bad
100%.
parts and have like the best ending out of all the Star Trek.
Oh, that's all they would have had to do, and I would have been sitting here telling you that series, hands down, best series. What did you think of
season 3 though?
Season 3 was weird. Yeah, that was the Xindi thing, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know. Like, I know, and we've kind of talked about it. Like they were doing their thing. They're trying to set stuff up, and then they got canceled. And the season 4 was like, I didn't skip a single episode. I watched the entirety of season 4 because it was just nonstop.
They're like just finished deactivating like that giant weapon that was gonna like destroy Earth. They get back and they're like, there's no signals from the Federation. And then they're like, picking up some radio signals, and it's like fucking Nazis and shit. And they're like, what happened?
It's just so good. So anyway, so Enterprise, I would put it number 1 for me there.
Yeah.
Number 2 slot is a toss up for me between the original series and Next Generation.
Yeah.
Those 2 were very, very good. And so it's a toss up. It's either way. So that would be 1, 2, 3. Voyager right after that, because that was fantastic.
Voyager's so
good. I mean, and keep in mind, we're talking about like where to put all the number 1s. In what order do you put the number 1s?
Yeah, they're all good.
I haven't hit a spot where it's awful. And then I would put Deep Space Nine after. And the only reason that I would put Deep Space Nine as far down on that list as I do is because it was a real slow burn getting to season 4.
Yeah.
But season 4 to season 7, that was fantastic.
Yeah.
And then they just crumpled it up and threw it in the garbage for the ending.
Yeah, like, but all the endings are really bad, I find.
There has yet to be one series that has a good ending. I have yet to see a good ending.
Yeah.
to the series. And maybe it's just because they're so epic.
Yeah.
That how do you end it off? But you would think by now, right?
Pic-
Because they've been doing
I'll
Star
just say-
Trek since.
I'll just say
they've been doing it
Picard
since
has
the
by
60s.
far the best and probably only
this-
good ending.
The series isn't over yet, or
Yeah,
is it over
is.
now?
Yeah.
Oh, it's over. Okay, so I'll reserve judgment on that component until I get there. But you know what? They've been doing Star Trek since the '60s.
Yeah.
You would think by this point in time they would have figured it out.
Yeah, no
I don't
doubt.
even know.
Even by like Deep Space Nine, like Deep Space Nine and Voyager should have had good endings.
I feel like I owe it to Discovery to watch the ending.
God,
the
if you get
ending
past
of it.
season 4, you're either a better or worse man than me. I don't know.
How
I
many
don't know.
seasons is there in Discovery?
5 is gonna be the last one. I couldn't get
Oh,
past.
they're not
the
done
first,
yet.
I couldn't get past the first episode of season 4. I watched it and I was like, nope, this is still bad. Wait till, dude. You think you don't like Discovery now, okay?
Right.
Like,
It hasn't even gotten bad yet.
dude. The ending to season 3 is like take a bucket full of puke and diarrhea and dump it in your face because that's basically what
It's that
happens.
bad, eh?
That's what happens to all the viewers.
That sucks. Well, I mean, I'm gonna give it the best I can do, but I mean, I got to tell you, I was this close to pulling the plug already,
Yeah.
and I hadn't even got to the end of season 2.
The worst part
It's
is like the whole scenarios. Like every time they come up with like what could happen,
Yeah,
it's like, oh man, this is it. Discovery's gonna turn it around. It's gonna be awesome, and then they still blow it. They blow it worse every single
Yeah.
time.
well, and the other
Season
thing is
2 was pretty cool because you had the Enterprise and like
yeah,
Pike
well, you
and
got
Spock
Pike in there. There was a lot of cool stuff in there, but even then, there was times where I'm halfway through an episode watching it, and I'm like, "What the hell is going on in here?"
Yeah.
Like it's just because there's just so much stuff. And I got to tell you, the panning circle camera that's constantly spinning around the conversation, it drives me insane. They use it so much. The camera that goes around, like, well, maybe we could do this. And then, oh, no, we can't do that because that'll blow things up. Well, what if we do this? But then we can't do that. Like, and it's just literally a camera
Oh,
that's going in a
man.
circle. It makes me dizzy. That, and the other thing is they do the slow walk. Someone slow walking into
Right.
frame. And the one episode, I swear to God, it was like every 30 seconds, it was either a circle panning moment or a slow walking moment.
That's funny.
Everything. And I'm like, who wrote this? Like, who
Yeah.
decided this? There was a couple Jonathan Frakes directed episodes, and those were some of the only normal episodes.
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, just hire him for everything.
Yeah. No
Just
shit.
bring him on and fix this mess.
Yeah.
He'll do it. So I would put that, and then Discovery is way below all of the rest of them so far.
Yeah.
There's some moments where it's like, and then I feel like you cannot focus a Star Trek series around a single character.
Yeah.
And we were talking about this,
Especially a
in our
non-captain,
chat.
like a
Well,
person that's
like,
like
It's just like
yeah, she's so
she goes
insufferable
from being
too, man.
on the way to jail to like, and she's got moments. There's moments where I'm like, okay, friggin' Burnham's gonna be awesome now,
Yeah.
and then it's like, yeah, but no,
Yeah, it's too bad.
and that just throws it all in the garbage. There's a lot of real hammered in concepts that like they really want you to know that this is what they are and that this is the character.
Yeah,
They exist in this tiny little box and this is all their character actually is.
yeah.
When in reality, there's so much more, I think, to that character that they could easily expand on. But they
Yeah.
really want to beat you over the head with the fact that this character is this character.
yeah.
And this is the box they live in. And they're not different no matter what, right?
Yeah, it's the characters are so like cookie cutter, like
They're just
token
one-dimensional. There's
representation
really not
characters.
much.
Like
There's really
even
not much to it.
Stamets, who's like the lead engineer.
Hmm.
Like the lead engineer, look at Trip. The lead engineer is like the most fleshed out character in that. Look at Geordi
yeah.
LaForge. Like look at Miles O'Brien. Like the lead engineer is as important of a character
So
as
important.
the doctor, right?
The
Like
doctor, the engineer, the security officer, the captain.
Yeah.
These are the 4 roles that must be filled in every single Star Trek,
Yeah.
and they are all the main character. In Discovery, it's Burnham and everyone else.
yeah, and
And everyone
Burnham,
behind Burnham.
like Stamets, who should be this great fleshed out character after
Mhm.
at least 3 seasons, is basically gay dude who
Well,
can
and
drive
that's
the
the thing
ship.
that drives me insane. Like
That's
it's
it.
look,
You don't get to get to know more about his character and who he is.
yeah.
And he's more likable in the one season of Star Trek Online he's in. The MMO has him better written than the fucking show he's in for like
they
4
painted him
seasons.
so heavy into the corner about being it's like his primary title is gay. And it's like, look, he's gay, and that's fantastic. Great. Awesome. Can we also focus on the fact that he's brilliant?
Yeah.
Can we focus on the fact that he's been injected with this mycelium stuff, and now it's made him invulnerable to time skips, which apparently the entirety of Discover is about time skips, right?
Yeah.
There's so many ways they could have built his character out and still maintained this component of
Make him a better character. Like
Right.
how good is representation when your character is so dull and never like really mentioned in the episodes?
They gave every character on the ship a white T-shirt that has the title of what they are. So Stamets' shirt says "gay,"
So
right?
does Dr. Hugh.
And it's just like, come on, you could do so much better than
Yeah.
that. You can give him a real story, and
It's
tried
like less
so many
than
times.
one-dimensional.
They tried so many times, and those moments where they get to show you that little flash of brilliance, where he does have a backstory.
Yeah.
Oh, he is actually
and then
brilliant.
they'll never mention it again.
And then it's like they erased that from the timeline for the
Yeah.
next one, and he's just right back to wearing the white T-shirt again, which it just sucks.
Yeah.
It sucks because I think that's also
The characters are the biggest part of Star Trek.
exactly. There's no reason for it to be the Burnham show. I don't know. And maybe that's, hey, you know what? If that's the direction I wanted to go into, but I will tell you, I haven't struggled even when I was watching the original series, because apparently the original series is pretty out there.
Yeah.
There's some
I'm
episodes
glad
that
and a little surprised that you liked the original series
I
as
loved
much
it.
as you did.
I loved it
Because
so
I love
much.
it, but a lot of people don't. They're like, I appreciate what
Yeah.
it did, but it's not for me, right?
It's
but
super
I loved
campy,
it, man.
right? Like it's super campy. But it's the reasons why I like the original series aren't for specifically the story and stuff, but just the fact that what they could do with what they had,
Yeah.
and they had a story that they were trying to tell, right?
Yeah.
It wasn't just random, right? They didn't
Yeah.
just roll the dice and they were like, this week Spock's gonna grow two heads.
Kind of like the
They're gonna
social
figure it out.
commentary and stuff back then. It was so well done, and the
Exactly.
writing, the mental gymnastics and stuff. Like
and,
it was,
and that's what I was.
the
That's what I was gonna
psychological
say.
part of it.
Is like, if you want to look at representation components of things, look back to the original series and how they did it. They had representation in there,
Yeah,
but they
but
also
Uhura
gave
wasn't
them
black woman. She was communications officer. You know
and
what
she
I
was
mean?
a badass.
Yeah,
Right,
she's
she
like
had-
steals. She's the one that like holds up the guys to steal the Enterprise in like
Right.
was it the third movie? Like,
Yeah.
she's got like a good, well done character. She's
There's-
on the fucking
there's-
bridge for a reason, man.
There's moments for each of the characters, and you get to learn about each of the characters, and you get to see that they're more than just the person on screen.
Yeah.
And I think that's what they forgot to do in Discovery. I think they were
Yeah.
like, we're going to make sure that these people are in here.
Because
However-
the ship won't fly without them,
Yeah,
but that's the only reason they're in there, basically.
But yeah, I think one of the first comments back to you that I had given about Discovery was like, I don't even remember any of these people's names. I know Burnham, because Burnham's there, and Burnham's
Yeah.
always doing the
She's gotta
Burnham
save
thing.
the universe, the entire
But, like,
universe. Every
I gotta
season.
tell you, yeah, not great. I liked Captain Lorca because he was the renegade kind of
Yeah.
guy, and he was like, I don't care how many worlds we got to blow up, we're getting this done.
Yeah, and
And
then
it
you
was
find
just-
out
it was
why
different.
he's like that.
Yeah. And so it's like, oh, okay. So it's like, probably not the coolest. There was moments still in Discovery that I was like, whoa, I can't believe they did that. But
Yeah.
every single time they'd get momentum, it would just shut
Yeah.
right down
Yeah,
right
yeah.
after.
Like there was some
And then
cool
that
shit.
was
Like the way when they like finally figure out how they can actually use the spore drive.
The spore drive.
And they're like,
Yeah.
we can end this fucking war right now, baby.
Yeah.
And then they just start like teleporting all around the Klingons and
Yeah.
fucking lighting them up. Like there's some cool fucking shit.
There's
in
some
Discovery.
really awesome moments.
But you gotta
Yep.
slog through like mountains of garbage to get
Yeah.
there. And then even in like season 2, like the overall story was fucking good, like the control and all that. But then like the stupid part, like this part with like her mom and stuff was like really bad. And oh man, it's like there's so many glimpses at greatness, and they never fucking
If I had to guess at what they did, they had a storyboard, and they were like, "Here's the main points of the story we want to hit," and it was really good, right? Because if you look in between the cracks, you can see that.
In all seasons, moments. Honestly, you can see potential for greatness in every single season.
What they did was they were like, "Okay, but this isn't 20 episodes. So what are we going to do?" And they're like, "Well, what if?" And then they put these things on, and they're like, "Well, also, how do we make sure Burnham is the one person who's doing all of this?"
Yeah. Right? How do we make sure Burnham does everything?
Stamets is the one who's got the actual spore drive components to make this work, but Burnham's going to be the one that figures it all out. Yeah. Right? Like, and it's just like, it was too much. That's too much for me. So I just started season 3 today. I haven't even watched all of episode 1 yet.
I kind of want you to watch like the first couple episodes of season 3. But honestly, once you know what the burn is, I'll then stop watching. Okay. And I'll just tell you what caused it, and you'll be like, wow, I'm sure glad I didn't waste a second of my time on that.
The approach that I've taken with Star Trek so far is I start the series off at episode 1, and I go until I'm like, okay, that's enough of this, and I shut that episode off. For Enterprise, that didn't happen. That was the only series where I didn't skip a single episode.
Really?
That's why that one I'm like, that was fantastic. And like, and
it really was.
The beauty with Enterprise is it gives you the backstory that you want, because it didn't exist. Where did the Andorians come from? Boom, here you go. Right?
Why it was McCoy. I love how it explains why McCoy is the way he is, because he's like an old-fashioned guy, and this is like shit, like why he hated Vulcans. There's fucking valid reasons why he hated Vulcans. Why he didn't like transporters. Well, because like they weren't meant for people at the start.
You teleport people with these things?
Yeah. Honestly, Enterprise is probably my second favorite. Like,
it was really good.
Probably my third favorite, because I got to go like Picard, I think, and then Voyager, and then Enterprise, I would say.
Voyager was so good, but the other thing with Voyager is there was also a lot of moments where I was like, okay. They did a lot at the end of Voyager where they were really trying to build anything having to do with Seven of Nine and the Doctor being a couple.
Yeah,
I was done.
That was kind of weird.
And then they were trying to force 7 and 9 with Chakotay. Like, why can't 7 and 9 just not have a romantic thing?
Yeah.
Right? Why do we need that? Right? Yeah. I like the idea with the Borg children.
Yeah,
right?
That was
and
really
the raising of the Borg children and the creation of the cooperative.
Yeah.
Right? Like, rather than like, so that whole thing that got set into motion, I thought that was super cool. I really liked all of that. I hated the ending to Voyager.
Yeah.
I hated the ending to Voyager. And it's just because I was like, I feel like Star Trek uses time travel to answer all the corners they write themselves into.
Yeah, you're like, right there.
What are we going to do? And then they're like, we're just going to go back in time and fix all these problems, obviously. No big deal. Janeway's going to go back in time, and that's how they get home. And I'm like, but that creates a time loop. That's a paradox. You can't start in the future and end in the...
You've created a time paradox.
It's just like, but it's like, okay, yeah, that's fine. I get it. Like,
I liked it. Like, compared to all the other ones, it's probably
absolutely. And again, as far as it goes for ranking all of these are number ones, right? Like, it's not like this was crap. Right, I don't think I even Discovery. I wouldn't.
Yeah, I was gonna say, would you? I don't know. Like until I saw
definitely the lowest.
Yeah, until I saw the end of like season 3, it wasn't crap. But yeah, it's crap now.
So far, it's not crap. I'm just starting season 3, so my opinion might change. But up to this point, it's by no means even close to my favorite. I'm pretty confident it will remain at the bottom of the list for me. But with that same thing being said, like the moments we just went through also set up some of the early episodes of TOS, right? Like
Yeah.
where you find Captain Pike and he's in that contraption. You get
Yeah.
to see that moment happening, right? And it's like,
Yeah.
holy crap, okay, that's freaking cool. And that was like a really epic moment in Discovery. So like there's moments I
Was
think that
it
would be redeeming qualities.
I don't want to accidentally drop a spoiler for Strange New Worlds or anything, but did he go to Talos 4 in Discovery?
Yes.
Oh, okay, yeah. That's cool, hey? Like
Yes.
he kind of
Yeah.
mentions the first time, so this is
Yeah.
like the second
And then
time.
what's her name? The girl, the blonde-haired
Yeah,
girl.
yeah.
She doesn't come and visit him, but it's like a holographic projection thing,
Yeah.
and so he gets to see her again. So it sets up the fact that he's already been there, right?
Yeah, and
And
would
that
want to
and
go
that
back.
and those guys with the big brainy heads,
Yeah, dude.
and the
Strange New
fact that
Worlds is
she's
so
all like,
good
yeah.
too.
So yeah, well, I'm pretty sure, given that this is where we're at with Discovery, it makes sense that that's where I go next.
Yeah.
So that's probably going to be the
So
next
good, dude.
series that I watch. But yeah, I don't know. I think the worst ending would go to Deep Space Nine for me,
Yeah.
followed
I
by
think
the
so
Next
too,
Generation.
actually.
Next Generation's ending wasn't very good either.
No, I didn't really like it. Some people really love it, but I did not like it.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't hate
wasn't,
it, but it's not good.
I feel like if you have this big epic series, that if you're gonna end the series out, you should go out with a bang, right?
Yeah.
There should be this kind of thing
Almost like
where you
almost like how the movies would be.
yeah,
Do that
exactly.
for
Well,
the
the thing
final
is,
story.
and I wrote it off. I wrote that ending off because at that point they had already done a movie, haven't they? Right? There was
No,
one or two
the
of them.
movies didn't come out
did the
until
movies all came out after?
Yeah.
Okay. So the thing is like the way I wrote it off was like, okay, well, they probably saved the actual ending of the series for one of these movies, right?
Yeah.
And so then that made sense to me, right? Because I felt like there was better season endings than there was the series ending.
Yeah.
Right? And the same thing happened for Deep Space Nine. It was the same concept. There was better season endings than there was the series.
Deep Space
ending.
Nine was really bad though.
It was so bad. I don't know what they were thinking with the whole. The Prophet thing was always just weird to me.
I always hated the Bajoran episodes, man. Like they were always so bad.
They're just out.
I like how Kira's whole like personality is basically like, I'm a bad bitch, don't fuck with me. And then anyone with a cock walks by her and she's like, oh, do you want the codes to Deep Space Nine security? I'll suck your dick if you take them. Like, is basically
Commander Riker. Here you go.
Yeah.
Oh, Commander Riker and I were hanging out down there, and he asked me for the top secret codes, so I gave them to him.
He whipped his dick out and said, hey, how about them top secret codes?
What are you talking about? Commander Riker's not here. Well, he was just... Oh, man.
Ah, shucks. Not again. There's like so many episodes like that, man.
Yeah. So, Lower Decks also way high up on my list.
Yeah, Lower Decks is really good.
I don't know if that counts technically
I
in
think
the
it does.
the
Like you should rewatch
series,
Lower Decks now that you've seen all the.
I will now rewatch it so I
Yeah.
can catch a lot of like the inside jokes and stuff like that, right?
Prodigy was like really bad and then all of a sudden got really fucking good. So like
that's the one they canceled, right?
Yeah, I think so they canceled it, but I think because they already finished the third season apparently, it won't be going to Paramount Plus, which is where they like host all their things in the United States. But Nickelodeon also like owns it, so they figure the third season still might air on Nickelodeon. So I hope it does because or was it second season? Anyways, I hope it does because holy fuck did that ending of that season, the last season was fucking incredible.
Well, I wasn't even gonna check it out, but I'll have to take a peek at it because I was like, well, if they're gonna just cancel it off before the show even finishes, then I'm not gonna be jumping in that.
The problem is the first like 6 episodes kind of suck ass, but then it does start to get really really good. So
yeah, it's been a ride. It's been a lot of fun. I still got a long way to go.
Who's
right?
your favorite captain?
Not
captain one. You would want to have, but favorite captain. Because captain you'd want to have, I think I would go with Picard because it's the safe bet. Like you're gonna make it home at the end of the day every day.
I gotta tell you, I really freaking liked Jonathan Archer.
Yeah.
I think Jonathan Archer is solid. I think the back half Cisco was good until he went all disappeary. Um, if I had to pick of all of them, I mean Kirk's a solid bet too.
Yeah, he
I think
really
that would be a
is.
fun ride, right? Like who knows? He'd be like, oh well, we're going to this planet now. It's like why? Shut up, because that's why, right? Like um, I don't know. Like Janeway was a really good. They're all good captains.
Yeah, they
I
really
don't think
are.
I don't think you can make a bad choice there, right?
Yeah.
People would have their favorites, and they would say this person sucks because of X Y Z.
Yeah.
If I had any comment to it, it would be that not all the captains are literal carbon copies of each other, and I
Yeah,
think that's
that's
the
what's
best
good. They're
part
all so
about it,
different.
right? They
I
all have their own thing, and I think that's really one of the best things about it.
Yeah. I think my favorite's Janeway, just because she goes through so much shit. Like,
Oh yeah,
you know what I
she
mean?
held it together too.
Yeah,
Like,
and she had to run that ship with like opposing forces on
mhm.
board, and like, yeah, it was so, and like all the shit they went through, they were
Maiden
not
voyage
trained
of
for any of
Voyager
this
too, right?
either.
Like Voyager was a brand new ship being
Yeah,
taken out the first time, kind of thing too,
yeah,
right?
it
So
was, man. She
yeah,
did. I think she did such a good job.
oh
She knew
yeah,
when to bend the rules and didn't take shit from like anybody, right? Like she
yeah,
was so good.
yeah, yeah. Standing toe to toe with the Borg Queen was some of the epic moments in that
Yeah,
episode, right? Or in that series. Yeah, it would be really hard to pick one. Picard went through
hell
stuff like I
too.
mean, yeah, like he got Borgified and came
Yeah,
back and he had PTSD from it, right? Like
yeah.
he got freaking captured by the freaking come on, brain.
The
When he got
Borg.
no, when he got taken in by the
Cardassians.
Kardashians.
Yeah, I know what
Jesus,
you're talking about. I know what you're
I
talking about.
had
There are
I had
four
the
lights.
wrong race. Yeah, like some of those moments, and then he's never the same after that,
Yeah,
right? And
that's
he's like,
true.
and then he's talking with freaking Troy, with Deanna Troy about some of this stuff, and it's like, and she's like, do you still have the nightmares? Like, and it's like some of this stuff is just insane.
Yeah.
Um, I think out of Voyager 2, I really liked the Barclay episodes.
Yeah,
Like
yeah. I
he
didn't
was
put any of
really
the
good.
Barclay episodes in the Next Generation list for you,
That's okay.
but that's where he
I
started, and they weren't as
yeah,
good, but it gives you a more backstory of his character and
right.
stuff.
Yeah, so I liked him as a character too. I have a tendency to like the characters that aren't carbon copies of each other, right?
Yeah,
I I
they
out
stand
of
out.
all of the if so this is turning into a Star Trek podcast, but that's okay. The out of the engineers, I loved freaking Trip. Like Tucker
Yeah,
was a
he was
fantastic
really good. Dude, that episode
character.
where they're stranded on that shuttle and there's like everything's shutting down, him and Michael or
Yeah.
whatever his name is.
Um. Oh man, what is that? What is that one?
They're like stuck on that shuttle. They have a podcast now called Shuttle Pod 1 based off that
Oh
episode.
really?
Yeah, I think the episode was called Shuttle Pod 1 actually.
Is that the one where they get like
And they're like freezing and they're just like,
yeah, is that the with the Romulans, like the minefield and stuff?
"Oh, maybe that's what caused it." Yeah.
Maybe? I can't
I
remember.
can't remember.
I'd have to go back now. I see the problem is that the other thing is since I binged it, I watched like
Yeah,
40
every
episodes
episode
in
back
3 days,
to back.
right? Like so a lot of it kind of fuzzes together for me. But he would be top end engineer for me. O'Brien's absolutely
Yeah, no
fantastic. I mean,
doubt.
you can't go wrong there. I would say TOS probably had the weakest engineer,
Yeah, I
right?
agree. Yeah.
Scotty's
I love
great,
Scotty, but I like the other guys better.
right, and that's kind of the thing. Like Scotty set the pace, and then all they could do is like jump him from that
Yeah.
point forward,
I
right?
think it's gonna sound bad, but because I do love Jordy, but I think I like Scotty better than Jordy. Jordy's a little
Scotty's,
bland.
I think so too. Yeah, Jordy didn't really come into his character, I think, until later on,
Yeah.
after TNG. I think when he was like Captain LaForge, right? He's a little bit
Yeah,
different.
yeah, like
And
in the movies
his
and stuff.
cameo at the end of Voyager, that was friggin' cool,
Oh yeah, I
right?
forgot about that.
Because he's going to shoot Janeway down for breaking the temporal agreement, right? Like,
Right. Yeah, man.
there's just
So
there's
good.
a lot of cool
What?
moments.
So I guess my last question is now because you haven't done Strange New Worlds, but you have seen season 2 of Discovery. What do you think of Captain Pike?
I think Captain Pike's pretty solid. The thing was, so all of season 2 Discovery, I was waiting for like Captain Pike to be part of Control or something else, like that
Oh,
he wasn't
really?
actually Captain Pike, that it was something else.
Oh,
And so that I think played into it. I think as a captain, solid choice.
yeah,
I think between, if I had to pick between Pike and Kirk though, I'd be picking Kirk
yeah,
as the captain. And it's just because like he's just kind of generic captain guy, right? Like he's got some heavy moments, and there's like the moment when he grabs
that
the
chrono
truth
crystal
crystal.
or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And he grabs that crystal and he sees his future, and they're like, look, if you take that shit, like that's what's gonna happen. If you take this, there's no going back. That's now locked in. He's
yeah,
like, this is for the good of the Federation. He grabs it, right? And
yeah.
I'm like,
Fuck,
whoa. Like that's a good moment. That's a
dude.
solid character building moment.
Yeah,
And it's at that point where it's like, okay, yeah, this guy's pretty freaking cool.
yeah. I can't wait for you to get to know him better in Strange New Worlds.
Yeah, and
'Cause
that's the other thing
it's
too, because
so
you only
good.
really get to know him over like 15 episodes, 16
Yeah, and he's
episodes,
covered
or
up
something
by
like
all the
that, right?
Burnham. Because you
Yeah,
gotta focus
well,
on
that's
it.
the other thing, yeah, because he's not really the focal point in the
No.
series, which is that is also the other shift, because in Discovery the captain is the focal point, quote
Yeah,
unquote,
of every
in
other
every
show.
single series except for this one, right?
Yeah,
And that could be one of the reasons why it's not as
yeah,
good.
it's kind of weird.
Because I think in order to be the focal point, you have to be a damn good. Your character's drive has to be great.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
But yeah, I can't wait. I can't wait for you to watch Strange New Worlds.
yeah. I'm not far off.
I can't wait for
Should
you
be
to
by
watch
next weekend.
Picard either. Like they're both so good, and with them, just watch every single episode. They're all good.
Yeah, exactly. Well,
Some
I
people
was
didn't like
debating.
season 2 of Picard, but I don't know. I think it's still good. It's not as good as 1 and 3, but it's still good.
I was debating switching, watching Strange New World season 1, watching Picard season 1, watching Strange New World season 2.
I think it aired
watching
the
Picard
opposite
season
way.
2.
It was Picard and then Strange New World.
That makes sense.
Because yeah,
I was
Picard
thinking of.
ended because it's season 3 was like the last season of Picard, and
Got it.
Strange New World season 3 is airing right now. So
I was thinking to mix them up, and then I was like, nah, I better just stick to the series.
yeah, you're
And the
better off
reason why I
not
was
mixing
looking
them up.
at the reason I was looking at Strange New Worlds first is because it makes it's a logical jump to go from Discovery at this point into
Yeah,
Strange New
right
Worlds, because it
into
kind of
it.
just picks up from it, right?
The only
Like,
shitty thing about if you go to that first is you're gonna get to a point where you're caught up, and then you'll start watching Picard, and then new episodes will come
oh
out.
yeah,
You know
because
what I
they're
mean?
still releasing this, right?
Yeah, yeah. Like
So
we're on like season 3, episode 4 now.
okay,
So maybe do
yeah, so
Picard and then
yeah, they can get
jump
caught up.
back.
Well, we'll see. I still have a bunch to go yet. So we'll have to see how that ends up. But yeah, no, it's been solid. At this point in time, like I said at the beginning of the podcast, at this point in time, I would say I would be rating Star Trek above Star Wars.
Yeah, like
If someone was
way
like, "Hey,
higher.
should I watch Star Trek or Star Wars?" I'd be like, "You should watch Star Trek,"
Yeah,
because I think
hands
just the
down.
content itself is better.
Yeah, it's really good.
At least where we're at today.
Yeah. Well, guys, it's been a fucking journey. We
That's,
talked
that was
talked
that
a
was
lot
a
of
good one.
Star Trek, talked a lot of Sega or Super Nintendo, and had a great time tonight. So, if you guys enjoyed the podcast, please remember to like, subscribe, turn notifications to all. You can also check us out on Spotify if you just want the audio version. You can find us there as well, and then you can find us on Twitch. I think we're both 3 nights per week, pretty much.
We're basically the beauty with this, right, is that you stream on the days that I don't stream, so
Yeah.
there's some kind of content happening at least every day during the week, which is super cool. I try to do 4 days a week, so
Yeah.
typically you'll see me Sunday, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday.
Yeah.
But those shift because my Sundays and my Friday streams are with other folks.
Yeah, so you're
And
depending on
so
their schedules and stuff too, right?
sometimes, yeah, schedules don't line up, and then we end up just postponing or something like that. But
Yeah, I'm usually every Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday, but I do Saturday mornings as well. So, but anyways, I'm at twitch.tv/Dookie03.
and you can find me at twitch.tv/DG online.
And you guys have a good one. Thank you for listening and watching.
Take care. Have a good one. Goodbye.